Hello friends, I am Hardik Patel. Welcome back to Django tutorial. In last video we learned about how to post the data from front end to server and how to create the forms at the front end in the browser using Django form. Right, so we learned about Django form in previous video, and we created four views like for CRUD operations on an employee app. Right, so we can add employee, delete employee, edit employee. So those things we are done in last video, and in this video we are going to do two things. One is how to log in user and how to log out the user. Right, so three pages I am going to create for just understanding how authentication works, how login system works. First, login page. Second, success page. And for logout, actually we don't need any page but just URL, right? And we will also see that how all three things work. Okay, so for that actually we need three URLs. First is login, success for rendering the success page, and logout for logging out any user. Okay, so I have created already predefined URLs to explaining very better, and also we don't want to waste much time on this. So login, and these three methods I have created: user login, success, and user logout. So why I use this user underscore login instead of just login? I could use login, right? But why I haven't used? So let me explain that also. So because that login itself is a method which is provided by Django, and that's what we are going to use. And if you want to use here login like this, then you have to use an alias. Okay, so let me show that in views. Okay, so this is views. I have just created three blank views, so I can write the code and explain during the developing the code, writing the code. Okay, so these three methods are inbuilt methods of Django's auth application, which we can use. First, authenticate, which is just checking that user is authenticated. That means user is available in our database. If user is correct, credentials are correct, those kind of conditions are checked in this authenticate method. And if is successful user with the same credential which we have in our database, then it will give us user in return. And that user, if it is not none, that means if user is there, then we will use login method, and that will actually create the session, right? And that we can use. And further for logout, again that logout method, just we need to pass one argument only, that is just request. It will automatically if user will, and this logout method doesn't return any error. Why? Because the logout method's purpose is that to remove all the records of previous logged in user, and if it is not logged in user, then doesn't worry, do not need to worry about that, because it's already logged out. So what it will does, it will just pass out that logout function successfully, and going further execution. So let's create login first. Okay, so first of all there are two methods will be there. One is for rendering the page, and second is post for submitting the data. So let's check first. Let's create the context first, blank context, because we are going to pass this context with maybe error or maybe without error. Okay, so let's check first method request dot method. If it is post, just I am writing pass for now, else request dot method is equal to, okay, in else actually we don't write condition, sorry about that. I was just thinking and I just wrote that. Okay, so in else what we are going to do, we are just rendering this page, return render, and you know the syntax right now, index request and the page URL, and that is auth slash login.html and context. Okay, so this is render request, context is blank, so we don't need to worry about that right now. And this auth is, we have created one folder inside this templates folder, that is auth folder, and inside the two pages I have created. One is login and second is success. Right now login is just, I have already put the code for that. I have generated the form manually, right? So look at this form now. This is post method. CSR token is always required when you talk about form in Django template. There is submit button to submit the data, login, and I have used table form, so automatically adjust all the values in table cells, right? So first is username, second is password, label, and then input, and make sure that name parameter must be right, because in database our auth application uses username as a parameter, and for password is password. You cannot write like that, just user, or maybe pass for password pass wd, right? It must be like this only. And here we just need to mention that id is not mandatory, but it is just I used because we have used here for parameter in label, right? Okay, so this is just form we have created, and let's look at this. Views also done for get method. Now let's render this. Okay, so now you can see username and password. This is password field and this is username field. And if I submit this, as I have explained in last video, that if we don't pass any action parameter, then it will take the same URL as a target URL to submit the data. And what is the same URL? That is /login. Now for that actually we need to write a code in a post method, right? So let's write that also. So what we are going to post here, two things, username and password. Okay, and for sake for removing that problem, we just make it is required. So anyhow it has to pass these values, user has to pass these values, right? Okay, now let's go into the views. First we will get username in a parameter, that is request dot post, then username, same password, go to request dot post password. Okay, now let's first check that username and password are correct according to our database. So for that we have inbuilt method, that is we are going to use authenticate. First parameter will be request, second will be positional argument, not positional, sorry, it's a keyword argument, and two parameter arguments we are going to pass. One is for username, second is for password. Okay, now it will check this method that the username and password are correct, then it will return us a user object, and that is of user app, user models object. Now what we need to check here, if user is there, then what we will do, login the user, and that is login method, and it takes two arguments, first request and second is user object. So now we have user object, right, because it is successful. And else what we are going to do, we are going to return with the same URL, because user was not logged in successfully, so that we are going to pass. But in context actually we will pass something, that is we can say error, right? So provide valid credentials, right? That's what the message I want to pass. And first of all it will render the same login HTML, but how we can come to know that? We will come to know that user is this logged in has an error. So for that actually we need to write one p tag here, and just like this it will render the message. And if error is not inside the context, then it will not have any effect here, just p tag will be blank. Okay, so okay, and if login is goes successful, then what we are going to redirect to the user to success HTML, and the success URL we have already, and that is name parameter user success. So what we need to do, return HTTP response redirect, and then reverse. Inside that just need to pass that name. Okay, so what reverse will do, it will give us a URL, complete URL. Then what it will does, it will just redirect to that page. Okay, now this user login is successfully done. Okay, now let's check it out. Let's first render this. If I click on login, this admin and your password was the same, correct answer. So look at this, automatically redirected to success. But what happened, that success view is not implemented yet. So let's implement that also. Here we don't need to worry about, just we need to pass something like this, and in context actually we will pass user. And one more thing you are going to learn in this case, that is user. Okay, now if user is successfully logged in, then user object always will be a parameter of request object, request property. Okay, so request has a property that is user, and how it is there, well, let me also explain that. Okay, first let's see how it works. Okay, so this login.html not we are going to render, but success.html going to be render. And in success.html, what we need to do here, the p tag and user and then b tag. Let's put user dot first name or username. Let's put username is logged in successfully. Okay, and one more thing that we are going to do here, we are going to put one login button, logout button here. Okay, so submit. Yes, and for sending the post request, what we need to do, either we can send a get request also, it will work fine, but we are going to do the post request. So for that actually we need to create one form method is equal to post. We are going to complete this form, and one more thing is required when we talk about form, that is CSRF token, and this in this value is equal to logout. Okay, all right. So yes, and in this case we are not going to log out on the same URL. Actually for logout actually we have different URL, so here we need to mention that action, and then in that case user logout. Okay, not like this, just logout, and that will be posted here on this, and user logout method will be called. So that we need to also implement, right? So let's implement that as well. Here it is. So we just need to check that if request yes, method is equal to post, and then just simple method we need to call request. That's it, and then we will redirect to user to return HTTP redirect, and then reverse, and then parameter that is we are going to redirect to user to logged in page. So user login. Okay, so if someone tries to log out the user, then it will be logged out from the system, and user will be redirected to login page, so other user can log in to the system. Okay, so now flow is completed, and now let's check it out how it works. Okay, so first of all let's see success works. Yes, look at this, we refresh this page again and again, but it doesn't logged out the user. It stays logged in, because you can see here that admin is a username, and that how we got this from request.user. and this is success URL, right? And in success.html we haven't done much. We just write a simple line and we just use that URL object, user.username. Okay, and now let's work on let's click on logout. Look at this. Now user is already logged in, logged out from this system, and if you will see that success page, user is logged in successfully. It has rendered, but what happened? That we have to prevent, but that we are going to work on that particular thing in next video. But for now, just understand that if user is not logged in, then request.user will not have any kind of property of user. It will be anonymous user maybe. So if I write like this, let's say for example, where is the success HTML? Instead of username, I'm just putting first name, and if I refresh this, okay, so because this user is an object, if that is a real object of user, similar to this error, if you don't pass any error into the context, then it will not have any effect of this p tag. You will not see anything in the front end, and similar to that the user for also, right? Request has a property user, but it is none, and none has no property like username or something, right? So that is why it is not showing something. Okay, so now let's log out to from the system and let's provide wrong credential like this. Login. Look at this right? Provide valid credentials. If you can also write like this. You can provide the red color, style, color, red. Yes. Yeah. Provide valid credentials. Now credentials are right. If I am putting login, it is successfully logged in user, and that username is also come, right? It logged in successfully, and if I click on logged out, it will log out from the system. Okay, so that's it for this video. Now you can understand how login logout works in a Django template engine in Django session based, right? So, and next video maybe we are going to integrate that. Let's say for example, if I call this success, and if user is not logged in successfully, if user is no user is logged in, then we will redirect user to the login page. And then if we are going to log in successfully, then again whatever URL we fired before logged in, that must become after successful login. Okay, so that's what the purpose of next video we will have. And for now, just try yourself in your system to implement this login logout. And now I think we have all the pieces ready. Just we need to work on integrating them into the one system. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you have any kind of problem, just let me know in a comment section. I will reply as soon as possible. Thank you.